What's cracking, guys? Bruce Matson, your host of the show of Metric Scout Fantasy Football. And guess what? It's time for another mock draft. We're going to be drafting these rookies again. I told you I'm going to throw a lot of mock drafts at you. My simulation of these players. That way we get a different look of how the drafts could go. We get some analysis of the players. And we just get different types of content coming at you. We're going to be doing a 1 QB mock draft. And when I made this in the old brain here, I formulated it so that it's running back heavy, just in case we had some of those mid-round running backs or some running backs that jumped up in the draft and get a lot of value that has increased through the draft process. Things change between now and the draft. It's January. We just had New Year's. Christmas just happened. A lot of times going to happen between now and then. A lot of players are going to be up and down. And really, it's a good time to mix things up before things start to stabilize. That's one thing I want to do. I also want to talk about some different running backs. Of course, I'm going to have videos on each one of them. But I also want to cover them in the mock drafts as well, just to get my feelings and thoughts out there. So just sit back, enjoy the content, because we're going to be dropping another mock draft. Alright guys, it's time to get drafting. Again, running back focused, running back heavy, 1 QB. Let's go. First pick off the board. The top running back, going to roll with him, and that's Isaiah Spiller, running back from Texas A&M, 6'1", 215 pounds, 1,000-yard season this year, 6 touchdowns, 3.63 yards after contact per attempt. He forced 56 missed tackles, and he's been used in the passing game. Looks like he's going to get some decent draft capital, which is going to equate to touches early in his career. Let's move on to my second pick of this running back heavy 1-round rookie mock draft. And in this selection, I'm going to be drafting Bryce Hall, running back from Iowa State, 6'1", 220 pounds, and really, you can flip and flop him with Isaiah Spiller, however you want to do it. They're both pretty good. I call them the big three, Spiller, Hall, and Walker. Hall's going here in the 2 spot. Rushed for 3,941 yards on his career with 50 touchdowns. Caught 82 passes on his career. This year had 713 total yards after contact and averaged 2.83 yards after contact per attempt. Bryce Hall's been steady since his freshman season and has been productive all the way then till now. Bryce Hall is a baller. Let's go to the third player off this mock draft. The third player selected, and again, this is running back heavy, so guess what? We're going to go another running back. We're tapping into the big three. If we're going to call him the big three, might as well take him 1, 2, and 3, and that's Kenneth Walker, running back from Michigan State. Again, a transfer 1 year at Michigan State, but blew up. There's Heisman talks about him. He was competing for the Heisman Trophy earlier this season. 1,634 yards and 18 touchdowns, second in the nation. He averaged 6.46 yards after contact per attempt. That's better than a lot of running backs' yards per carry. And he forced 89 missed tackles, led the nation in that stat. Kenneth Walker has the potential to be the first running back selected in this draft as well, and I would not sleep on him. You can put him anywhere, first, second, third in the top running back list. Let's move on. Our fourth player off the board, we're going to go to the wide receiver. I'm going off the top wide receiver on my board here, and that's Treylon Burks from Arkansas, 6'3". It's going to be anywhere between 225 to 230 pounds. Dude can book it. Had a 41.5% market share of Arkansas's passing production and averaged 3.57 yards per route run. We should see him hit first-round draft capital this year. Let's move on to the 5th pick in this draft, and here I'm going to be selecting Garrett Wilson, wide receiver from Ohio State. So we're going back to the wide receiver well. He is a very nuanced player, runs great routes, is great at the catch point, can climb the ladder, bring it home, has a lot of good skills on him, averaged 3 yards per route ran. He also averaged 417 yards after the catch, He's a very nuanced player, like I said. Good release, sweet footwork, and has sticky hands. He's about everything you want in a wide receiver. Garrett Wilson should get that first-round draft capital and should be one of the first wide receivers selected in this year's draft. Moving on to the 6th pick. Again, we're going back to the wide receiver well here at the 106. I'm mixing up my wide receivers from previous drafts here, and I'm going to be selecting Jameson Williams, wide receiver from Alabama. 6'2", 189 pounds is what he's listed at. And this dude's got speed. This dude's got burst. He'll outrun a DB even when the DB's got the angle on him. We've seen him do that multiple times at Alabama. On a 31.94% market share of Alabama's passing production. You just do not see that from Alabama wide receivers. 3.17 yards per out run and had 662 yards after the catch this season. I'm not concerned of just 1 year of production considering what he had to deal with at Ohio State, dealing with multiple stud wide receivers in the same wide receiver room, and really it just shows to me that he has good self-awareness, transferring out, going to one of the toughest programs in the nation and saying, watch this, I'm going to win this competition and I'm going to ball out here at Alabama. That's what he did. And there's a good chance he's going to blow up the combine and then he's going to blow it up on draft day, be a first-round selection. Moving on to the 107th, the 7th player off the board. And now we're going to get a little frisky here. We're going to get a little dicey. And the reason why is a lot of times we're going to get a running back get drafted on day 2 that we weren't projecting, that we weren't thinking about, a 3rd round maybe, and that running back gets a boost in value. Maybe that running back might get the chance to lead the team in carries early on in his career, and I think this running back might have the chance to do that. If not, it's a good speculation, and I'm going with Tyler Algier from BYU, 5'11", 220 pounds. He rushed for 1,611 yards this season with 23 touchdowns. He also posted back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons. He averaged 4.16 yards after contact per attempt. He can also catch the ball in the backfield with 46 catches over his last 2 seasons. I think this is a guy that could get pumped up in the value once we get to the NFL draft, once we get the rookie draft season this spring. Moving on to the 108 pick off the board, and we're going back to wide receiver because really we have to. I'm not selecting any quarterbacks here in 1QB because I don't feel like any of the quarterbacks justify being drafted in the 1st round in 1QB leagues. This year, we don't have any studs. We don't have any generational talents at this position, so you're going to mainly see running backs and wide receivers in the 1st round. You're not going to be seeing tight ends either. Tight end is not a premium position this year. Pretty much running back and wide receiver, 1QB, that's what you're going to be seeing in the 1st round. Pretty much no matter what this year. Let's move on to the 108 spot in the draft. And at this spot, this selection at 108, 8th player off the board, I'm going back to the wide receiver well, and I'm going to be selecting Drake London from USC. And he was very productive this season. At one point, he was one of the most productive wide receivers in college football. Then he got injured. However, even when you count the time missed into his production, he still owned a 30.28% market share of USC's passing production. On the field, he averaged 3.52 yards per out run and 5.2 yards after the catch per reception. He's a bigger wide receiver. Reminds me of like a Mike Evans, Brandon Marshall, Vincent Jackson type of guy. A guy that can get downfield and bring it home at the catch point. And that's Drake London. Should also be getting supreme draft capital this year. Moving on to the 109 pick, and we're going back to running back because this draft is running back focused. And here we're going to be drafting one of my favorite running backs, and that's Zach Charbonnet from UCLA. His team thick, 6'1", 220 pounds. I am worried about where he's going to get selected in the draft. I like him a lot. I liked how he was able to produce during his freshman year at Michigan. He had double-digit touchdowns and came over to UCLA this year. Had some production, had some good games, averaged 3.5 yards after contact per attempt. I just hope the NFL likes him enough to pull the trigger on draft day. He could be a guy that could fall in the draft. He could be one of the first running backs selected in the 2nd round maybe. He's a wild card right now. We just got to wait and see. We got to get a good feel on how the NFL likes him, but I really liked watching him play during his time at Michigan and UCLA. He was one of my favorite running backs in college football, good pedigree coming out of high school, and really had some decent production this year. 13 touchdowns, 1,153 yards, and really just want to see what happens with Charbonnet. With the 110 here, 10th player off the board in this draft, I'm going to be drafting my favorite wide receiver. I don't have him valued like that. Same way with Charbonnet, because I'm keeping it honest. And I'm just like Charbonnet, I'm worried about where he's getting selected in the draft. There's a chance that he could fall. That's probably mainly why I don't have him bumped up to the 101, 102, 103 area in the draft. And that's David Bell, wide receiver from Purdue, 6'2", 205 pounds. He has been productive since his freshman season. That's when he broke out. Has an age 18 breakout. Early breakout age is really good. One of the best metric profiles of all the wide receivers in this class. You're talking about high-end production, freshman year, sophomore year, this year. David Bell's got it. 31.47% market share of the passing production. He had 114.5 QB rating when targeted. And this guy can pretty much do it all. He can run routes, got a good release, good footwork, good balance, sticky hands, can make those sick highlight reel catches downfield. And I really like this guy. He's one of my favorite wide receivers in this class. Moving on to the 11th pick in the draft. And I'm drafting another running back who might get drafted higher than expected. And I don't really have him high in my rankings, but I've seen a lot of people talk him up as if he is a candidate to be in the top 100 of the draft. And that kind of caused me to just throw him into this mock here. This mock isn't a set of rankings. It's more like, hey, this could actually happen type deal. It's more of a simulation that went on in my head. It's kind of weird. But here, we are selecting James Cook, running back from Georgia. 5'11", 181 pounds. That's what he's listed at. Could be a little bigger, could be a little smaller. We're going to find out sooner than later. I expect him to really make his money at the combine. Or I could expect him to lose his money at the combine. Combine's going to be big for this dude. He's going to have to really perform there to get his stock up, because really he was sharing the backfield his whole career. He has 64 catches over the course of his career, so he can't catch the ball in the backfield. He's also very explosive. He's got a little bit of speed behind him. That's what makes me think and others think that he could earn potential draft capital. You're talking second, third round, sneak up in there, get that high selection, and really enamor Dynasty gamers. Really, this is just a speculation. There's also a chance, there's barely any production with this dude. 651 rushing yards, 3.45 yards after contact per attempt. There's also a chance that he falls. 5th round, 6th round. He's a wild card. He can go up, he can go down. But really in the simulation, in this point, this is what would happen if he got selected high. And there's a chance that if that does happen, that you could see him in the first round of rookie drafts, or at least the top of the second round. But mainly, when you see a running back get drafted in the top 100 and get the opportunity to see touches early in their career, you're going to see them bumped up. Think of guys like Trey Sermon, Michael Carter, second round picks prior to the draft. They got put in a good spot. You saw their market value increase immensely. That's pretty much what we're trying to guess in this draft. Last pick in this draft, and I want to go running back again. Really, I just want to talk about running backs today. It's just giving me an excuse to talk running backs. Even though this is my channel, I can do whatever I want. I'm just giving myself this excuse. With the 12th pick in the draft, and there's a good chance he gets a good draft capital. There's a good chance this guy goes to a team and surprises us. And I'm talking about Brian Robinson, running back from Alabama, 6'1", 228 pounds. He moves well for his size. I'm not saying he's overly bursty, overly fast, but he's kind of shifty for a 228-pound running back. 1,268 rushing yards this season with 14 touchdowns. In his last game against Cincy in the college football playoff, he had 204 rushing yards. He also caught 32 balls this year. Can be used a little bit in the passing game. He could be a 3-down back. He could be a cheap back that an NFL team gets in the draft who could turn out to be a workhorse for a couple years. We don't know. Also, if he does get drafted higher than expected and goes to a good situation where he could get touches, we could see him pump up in the first round. We could also see him hover in the second round. We could also see him fall in the draft too and be a 3rd, 4th round, 5th round rookie draft asset. A lot of volatility with this pick, but I think Brian Robinson's being slept on a little bit. I don't think he's a stud running back. I don't think there's many stud running backs in this draft, but in the right spot, right situation, right draft capital, he could really sneak up on Dynasty gamers. Haven't seen many people talk about him. He is an older running back prospect. Would I suggest drafting him in the first round? Not really. Even with the stud draft capital, he'd be a guy I'd kind of fade, but if I got him cheap in a rookie draft, and he fell in the draft a little bit, then that's a different situation. I don't like spinning up on older rookies when the odds of them hitting are a little bit decreased. Not all older rookies miss, but a lot of them do. Brian Robinson, though, decent running back for Alabama, and I think he can turn some heads, especially against the right draft capital. But that's all I got today on this rookie mock draft. Running back focus. Really just want to talk about some running backs, get some of my thoughts out there, and really deliver some more content for you guys. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you think about some of these players. Who are some of your favorite running backs? Who you think will get a pump in value once the NFL draft happens? Drop it in the comments. Drop me some likes. 20 likes, you get another mock draft coming your way. But again, I want to thank you for watching the show, sticking with me. Hit that subscribe button on the way out, and I'll catch you next time.